Soléna Estates. Let's go. Let's check out Soléna Estates.
We are here and we are with Soléna.
We are so excited.
We are excited.
Oh,
we want to hear all about you. And look at this beautiful spread. Oh my gosh.
All of apricots, cranberries, dried peaches for you.
Yummy. Oh my gosh.
Welcome to Soléna Estate. We're technically a multi-generational, family-owned, family-run business. My grandfather actually originally started by planting the vineyard for my parents for their wedding back in 2000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know, which is super cute. He planted the first 10 acres of Pinot Noir vines in a section that we now call, it's called the wedding block of our vineyard.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's super cute. Which later on my parents added to that and basically planted the entire rest of the, 50 acres of vines that we have planted. The family home that I grew up in is just up at the top of the hill. Parents officially started Soléna Estate in 2002. My mom really kind of was the one who spearheaded it. She actually was second generation wine family.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah, if you guys have heard of, I hope so anyway, Archery Summit.
Oh, yeah.
My grandfather started Archery Summit.
Kidding.
Oh, there you go.
And then
Wow.
obviously Pine Ridge Winery down in California, and then Gypsy Dancer was kind of his, final
Ooh, I like that
retirement.
name.
Isn't that cute?
Yeah.
He named his other daughter Gypsy, actually, and so we call her Gigi, but that was kind of the fun little collaboration there.
Does she have a wine?
They unfortunately sold the brand later on,
okay.
but that was kind of the fun little family.
That's exciting.
A lot of experience.
Yeah,
A lot of
absolutely.
history.
Your mom started here, but they were in California?
So what happened for my mom is she was born in Ashland, and then she lived in Salt Lake City for a good portion of her life, went to school in Colorado, and then finished school, and her father basically said, hey, I'm starting a new wine project up in Oregon. I need someone to run this for me while I'm still working at Pine Ridge Winery, down in California. Yeah. And he was a pilot, so he could kind of fly back and forth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which is super cool.
Nice.
And my mom basically said, sure, why not? Let's go. And my mom started working at Archery Summit and really fell in love with the wine industry there, loved working for her dad. And at that point in time was essentially doing a lot of what I have been doing the last 2 years, which is a little bit of everything. She learned about the winemaking process a little bit. She learned how to do national sales, direct-to-consumer sales, how to run events, how to do basically everything that is required of a tasting room. And at that similar point in time, this was around the early 80s, if I remember correctly, my father had more or less been immigrating to Oregon, the United States. He started out in Southern Oregon and started working for a couple of different wineries. And the story goes is that as he started making his way slowly further up into the Willamette Valley, he kind of went up the food chain in terms of winemakers.
Oh, okay.
Until he actually co-founded Willamette Estate.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So he was part of the original team there. He was their head winemaker. And that is actually how my parents met each other. There was a little, at that point in time, I think there was 20 wineries when they officially met, so everybody knew each other. And there was a little competition, not actual competition, but a friendly competition between all the wineries to see who could, sell the most wine at a distributor event. Yeah. And my dad did a good job. He sold, I think it was 60 cases of wine.
Oh, wow, that's good.
Yeah.
Which was
Very
awesome.
Good, yeah.
My mom blew him out of the water with 273
Whoa.
cases. Yeah.
Nice.
So
She's
yeah,
got skills.
she does.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so the short story along there is my dad essentially went, that's the one I want, that one. And so years later, they got married, had me, and my mom decided, because at that point in time, her father was selling Archery Summit, and they were trying to keep my mom on as kind of to have a family member still on site and still running the business. Yeah. She basically started Soléna Estate out of the old post office, actually, in Carlton, and kind of yoinked my dad over and said, you're my winemaker now, and he said, yeah, okay, sounds good. And we've been basically living the dream ever since.
That is awesome. It's
is
beautiful here. It's absolutely
Thank you.
gorgeous.
Yeah,
Your
yeah.
tasting room is so nice.
Thank you.
It's like
yeah.
walking into a log cabin.
Yeah, that was kind of the intention, actually. Funny enough, my mom designed the whole tasting room as well.
She does really good work.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
very
yeah.
warm. It's inviting. It's
Yeah, I love
Absolutely.
the fireplace.
the little
you.
touches
Yeah.
with the wood right there along the bar.
Yeah, well, and those are actually all grapevines, actually, that we cut kind of in half to basically, show off the texture of the wood. This was all done with, obviously the design stuff is all like reclaimed wood and vines and stuff like that, which
Look, reduce, reuse, recycle.
Exactly, yeah. Well, and it's kind of funny that you mentioned that. Part of our philosophy, actually, for our brand in general, especially with my dad, because he's very conscientious about like the winemaking style and how to best represent the terroir of the Willamette Valley, and how to best protect the earth, because we do want this property to be a multi-generational, family-owned brand.
Yeah.
And so part of that was actually that he actually started doing biodynamic farming practices.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which is all about, following a solstice calendar, a lot of that kind of like, using ram's horns and sheep's horns and having sheep roam in the vineyard and using no chemicals, herbicides, pesticides, and kind of like using like chamomile tea to make a vineyard like chill out a little bit, or
That's
stinging
awesome.
nettle. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been we've been doing this for the entirety of the Soléna Estate property. It's a beautiful piece of land. It makes
Yeah, it's right on the hill.
Absolutely, yeah. And it makes really good wine as well, because we've been very intentional with that. But yeah, absolutely, reduce, reuse, recycle. That's a
love
very
it.
important philosophy for our brand.
Yeah.
It's kind of a fun decision that I'm making here. But
Okay.
So in this glass, I'm pouring for you the 2023 Pinot Noir from the Domaine de Laurent Estate Vineyard.
Okay.
This is all from the Domaine de Laurent Estate Vineyard as well.
Ooh.
But this is all specifically one clone that my grandfather actually brought. Have you guys ever heard of suitcase clones?
No.
No? Okay,
But
story
he
time.
smuggled it over in a suitcase.
Yes, exactly. So that's the idea. My grandfather and a bunch of other people in the Willamette Valley and also in California will go out to France in the middle of the night during the spring, would steal clippings from these specific vineyards, like famous French vineyards, and bring them back to the U.S. and either graft them onto their own vines or en route plant them, which basically just means stick them in the dirt. And my grandfather's trick, like everybody, the trick was to get them through security, was to put them in the lining of their suitcase. My grandfather liked the idea, but took it a step further and put it in the lining of his London Fog jacket.
Nice.
actually.
Okay.
Yeah, so always on his person. He's definitely the type of person who was like a rebel with a cause sort of thing, which
Yeah.
I respect him the hell out of him for that. And so because of, kind of that story, and then later on when my parents got married, part of his gift to them was actually to plant the clone that he stole himself back out here. And so he literally, in 2000, went to France, stole the clone again, and then
Wow.
came back and planted it for my parents for their wedding. There's about 2 acres of that clone in my parents' wedding vineyard, and then he added, an additional 8 acres, which technically, though my grandfather planted it, it was all gifted to my parents by their wedding party, because at that point in time, the idea was that all the wedding guests could just buy the individual vines and buy 20 vines for them or 30 vines or whatever
Yeah.
to make up the next 10 acres. And that was kind of the story of how the wedding vineyard got started. So.
Wow.
Very nice.
And this is where that wine comes from.
This is where that wine comes from. So you're trying 100% Domaine de Laurent, 100% Yamel Carlton AVA. This one is 2022 vintage. This one is 2023. So there's some slight differences in flavor profiles as well. I know I just talked earlier.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I know I just talked earlier about I don't want to influence people in their tasting notes and things like that, but I do think the 23 is a little bit more floral and a little bit more berry forward versus the 22 is a little bit more spice forward and a little bit punchier. So you guys will have to tell me what you think.
I was gonna say it smells so clear, so clean.
Totally, yeah.
I get it. That's probably a horrible description.
No,
but-
you're good, absolutely. Yeah.
Beautiful color.
It's stunning, yeah. It's such a fun wine.
Yeah, it is. It even tastes clean, like smooth.
It's very smooth. It's had a little bit of time to smooth out a little bit.
And you have the 2022.
Yes.
The 2023.
Let me smell the 2023.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
see. Yeah, this one smells thicker, like heavier.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, and to me, and this is my opinion, but the Yamhill Carlton AVA to me always has a really beautiful ability to create some really dark and really bolder style of Pinot Noirs that I think can handle like that long-term aging.
Yeah.
And it's always really interesting, especially as well, because we have these like different microclimates as well. For example, our next door neighbor is quite literally Shea Vineyard, and they're one of the most famous like distributed and I guess sold grapes basically throughout the valley. A lot of people have like their own like Shea Pinot Noir from after buying Shea grapes, and we've been buying from Dick Shea and the whole Shea family for a very long time, and they make absolutely stunning Pinot Noir. They grow really beautiful grapes, but to me, I always find that when I try Shea Pinot Noir, especially in comparison, like from my dad's style, Domaine de Laurent and Shea, I find that Shea is always a little bit more of this like brighter, like raspberry, cranberry, just like bright and very vivacious, versus DDL is more of that like brambly, blackberry, black currant, just a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
And then kind of on the other side, there is the, oh gosh, what's it called? The Gregory Ranch Vineyard, which gets even deeper and darker at sometimes like, you know those type of people who come to like Oregon to do wine tasting, but they say, "Oh, I only drink Cabernet."
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Okay, cool.
They used to like hit them in the face.
1000%. Yeah. Anytime they come up to me and they're like, "Oh, I only drink Cabernet. Your Pinot Noir is no match for me." I always say, "Cool. I'm going to show you these two wines," and I pour them specifically the DDL and the Gregory Ranch, and they're like, "Oh, interesting. This is actually really good. I'm very surprised by this." I'm like, "Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. Excuse my French again." But
Oh my God, that's funny.
yeah, well, because it does have that ability to kind of like punch you in the face as well, which is I think is super fun. So
This one feels more full-bodied.
totally,
Thicker.
absolutely,
That one is feels like cleaner and smooth.
totally, absolutely, yeah.
This one actually
I like them
seems like
both.
it's younger, but it's the older one.
I don't know what's older and what's younger, but they both taste delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're 2022.
Very fresh.
It's very fresh. 2022 as a vintage was very tight, honestly, just because it was a little bit cold. But it created this really, really interesting, like, especially for this one and this vineyard, or this section of the vineyard that has a little bit more of that, like, funkiness to it. I always call it, like, chanterelle mushroom funkiness.
Yeah.
And to me, it creates this really interesting, like barely starting to turn ripe blackberries. Just I don't know, something about this section of the vineyard and
Does
this
that have different
clone.
soil up there?
It's all Willamette soil type. So that's majority of what the Willamette Valley is out here. We do source from several different soil types actually in vineyards out here. In our kitchen, we have jars of all the different like soils.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's
but
awesome.
predominantly we pull from this Willamette/marine sedimentary soil type, or we'll do volcanic soil type, which is mainly coming from the Highland Estate Vineyard because they have Nakia volcanic and Jory volcanic.
Okay.
And that makes a big difference in the...
Absolutely, 1000%. Yeah.
Wow.
I find that vineyards that have some of that volcanic soil type have a little bit more like of a smoothness to it and a little bit more of a velvety mouthfeel, like texture, versus Willamette soil type is more marine sedimentary. It's a little bit more clay. It's a little bit more sandstone as well.
That salinity. too.
Absolutely, it's got that salinity. It's got it makes it a little bit tougher for the vines to really dig down deep into the soil, and so they really have to work for it, which is why it gets like such interesting, like beautiful, like textural notes to it that I think is a little bit more
Wow.
punchy in comparison.
So that's good for people who are not
Totally.
knowledgeable when it comes to wine.
1000%. Well, and that's again kind of part of what my vibe and also the vibe of the tasting room is. Whenever people come out, we want people to, like, if they're curious, we want them to ask the questions
Yeah.
and be like, "Hey, tell me a little bit more about this. Like, why do you have, pots of rocks somewhere? Like, explain that to me. Or why do you have, like, in the corner over there, we have all of our biodynamic teas that we use.
I
Like,
saw that. So how exactly do you use those?
It honestly depends. So, for example, I like to describe our vineyards kind of like people a little bit because each vineyard does have its own personality. Best example that I can give you is Highland Estate and the Domaine de Laurent vineyard. Highland Estate, my dad actually calls the solitary monk vineyard, because if you leave it alone, you let it do its thing, it'll produce the exact perfect right amount of energy to create beautiful grapes every single time, every single year. You can kind of just ignore it and leave it alone.
Yeah.
Versus in comparison, I call Domaine de Laurent our Tinkerbell vineyard, because if you don't pay attention to her, she will die.
I love it. I love that.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of a fun way to describe that each vineyard, especially when you're doing like a biodynamic style farming practice, it can have slightly different like attitudes and mentalities essentially. And when that happens, you want to kind of like pivot and assess and like figure out what it is the vineyard needs. It's kind of like a kid. And so in that same sort of mentality, if a vineyard's being too like vivacious and vigorous, like too early in the growing season, we use chamomile tea actually to kind of like calm it down. Exactly. Yeah.
That's cool.
Literally.
Okay.
Yeah. And then obviously you and I like will drink coffee in the morning to wake us up a little bit, right? We don't necessarily spray coffee over the vineyard, but we do something similar with stinging nettle actually. And stinging nettle has the ability to really, be vivacious and actually, get the grapes to start growing a little bit more if you want the vineyard to be a little bit more active and it's not as sluggish. On top of that, one of the things that kind of comes in with biodynamic farming practices is actually we bury ram's horns that come from the rams and the sheep that we have herded through the vineyards.
Yeah.
And obviously they manure everywhere, which is great, but we will take those horns as they, drop them basically, and we will bury them in the earth and let them like soak up all the nutrients from the soils that's, so many paces away from the vineyard itself. And the idea is that once you dig those horns up, you can ground them down and then re-put that back onto the vineyard as like a form of not only like, nitrogen and extra, like minerals and such, but it will also actually give a little bit more of this interesting, like, not even interesting, it just allows the vines to really like mineralize themselves and just grow stronger and healthier.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of like taking a vitamin, more
That
or
is
less.
very
for your
cool.
vineyard. Yeah, it's really fun. And so that's kind of all part of the biodynamic farming practice. We'll also do what my dad calls is like a green manure, where depending on if the vineyard needs a little bit more nitrogen, every few years or so, we will plant and seed red clover actually. And
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, and so it's always really beautiful when we do that, because we'll get these like big bushels of this beautiful red clover just all up and down the like rows of vines.
Yeah.
It's stunning actually, and it helps us just, and we till that back in. We also try not to till very often. That's part of the biodynamic process as well. But that re-adds nitrogen and minerals back into the soil. We try to do everything we can to take care of our vineyard and take care of our land and our property, just because this is, it's where I grew up, it's where my parents got married. It's a beautiful vineyard, it's super fun to have
history.
people. It's a lot of history, yeah.
I was going to ask you,
Yeah.
did your mom ever make glue vine? Or do you guys ever do that?
I don't
so
think
good.
Wait, I don't know what that is. What is the glue vine?
Glue vine is a warm wine that you
It's like a
make.
mulled wine.
It's like a mulled wine. You can make it with any red wine. I make it at home, but you put star of anise, cloves, oranges.
That sounds really good.
Oh my gosh! You mull it and you put a little bit of sugar in it, and then you just you do it on the stove, and it's just so delicious.
I love that.
But usually you can use any red wine, but
I love mulled wine actually. I at one point I was like throwing around throwing around the idea of like how would I make a mulled wine with each of the different like vineyard wines that we have. I do love using our DDL Pinot Noir to make mulled wine, because it does have that spiciness to it and still have that fruit. It's so much fun. Yeah, I love
oh my
mulled wine,
goodness,
so.
yeah, it's so good. I make it on the stove and it smells up the house so nice. And
That's so nice.
And
yeah.
it's just with all the herbs in it, it just makes it delicious.
The things that like when my friends ask me to come to parties and stuff like that, they usually know that I'm the one that comes with like some sort of new cocktail concoction. And I did do mulled wine at their Christmas party like last year, and everybody liked it. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
It hits you kind of fast.
it hits you really fast. Absolutely. No, I
That one
remember.
hits a little bit.
Well, because it's like it's so warming and comforting, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, how did I drink that much? What happened?
Right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. But
Probably one of the hardest questions, and you'll probably won't want to answer it.
Okay.
What's your favorite wine here
Oh God.
that you produce?
Okay.
And then what is your favorite wine you've had that is not from your winery?
Oh. Okay. Struggles.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a piece of cheese.
In the meanwhile, yeah. Okay.